Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Bulova Lunar Pilot reference 96K111. This watch is widely available from Bulova stockists nationwide and from the official Bulova website ie.bulova.com for €699. The Lunar Pilot is one of Bulova's most iconic pieces due to its interesting heritage. On the 2nd of August 1971, during the second moonwalk on the Apollo 15 mission, astronaut David Scott's crystal came out of his NASA-issued Omega Speedmaster, so he switched to using a prototype Bulova chronograph for the rest of the mission. That watch sold at auction in 2015 for an incredible $1.625 million. So this piece, the Lunar Pilot's reference 96K111, is the descendant of that original 1971 prototype Bulova chronograph. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a solid wooden watch box, which is housed inside an outer black cardboard box, and that outer box is protected in shipping by this white cardboard sleeve. So one removes the sleeve, which is a snug fit. This is the outer box. On the lid we have Bulova in gilt. So one removes the lid, which is a snug fit, pulls down the flap, and you can see the solid wooden watch box is protected by foam. So one removes it from the watch box, and I'll show it to you. So solid wooden watch box, matte grey finish to it, Bulova in gilt on the hinge lid, nice bevels on the top of the hinge lid, and the base is upholstered with black felt, which the purpose of is it prevents the watch box from scuffing or scratching polished or lacquered desktops or tabletops, and also prevents the watch box from sliding around. Hinge lid is well executed, and the inside is fully upholstered with black vinyl to a good standard. On the underside of the hinge lid, we've got the iconic Bulova tuning fork emblem in gilt, and the base has two cutouts which house two padded pillow cushions, and it's also fully upholstered with black vinyl to a good standard. So the right hand padded pillow cushion is for housing the black leather NATO strap, which comes as an alternative to the President style bracelet fitted to the head of the piece. Padded pillow cushion is profiled, as you can see, and upholstered with black vinyl to a good standard, snug fit inside the cutout. Left hand padded pillow cushion is the same, it's profiled, and the watch sits upon this, and again snug fit inside the base. There are two ribbon pulls on the left and the right hand side, and that makes it easier to withdraw this base, as you can see. And in the underside of the base there's also a cutout, and there's a ribbon beneath it, and that makes it easier to withdraw the items which I'll show you. So good presentation, good attention to detail, good design, and immediately one gets the impression that the Bulova Lunar Pilot reference 96K111 is a high quality piece. So with regards to the items that come with the piece, this booklet is the guarantee information and setting instructions. So when you open it, on the left side you have the website ie.bulova.com/guarantee, and that will download the terms and conditions of the 3-year international guarantee. I want to give due credit to Bulova here, because often mid-tier pieces, and to clarify, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000 price point. Often mid-tier pieces are only covered with a 12-month or 2-year international warranty. To get 3 years of international warranty is excellent at this price point, €699, and Bulova deserve full credit for that. On the right hand side we have the owner's instruction manual, which you can download from ie.bulova.com/manuals. So this is a credible alternative to using a warranty card, or alternatively a printed booklet with the owner's instruction manuals with clear concise diagrams, instructions in English, detailing the operation of the movement used, which is the Bulova Caliber NP20 high precision quartz chronograph. If you open it up, you can also extend the guarantee by an additional year by registering your piece online, ie.bulova.com/register with the registration number, and there's space to fill in the serial number of the piece, manufacturer number, model number, date of purchase, and the retailer's name and address, as well as the country and the owner's name. So this is clear and concise, and it works very well. 3 years of international warranty is excellent. One also gets this cardboard tag which has Bulova on it, and on the reverse we have the barcode and the reference number of the piece, and there's also a QR code you can scan to download the specifications of the piece. Now, as I've detailed, as an alternative to the President style bracelet which comes fitted to the head of the piece, Bulova also supply it with this leather NATO strap. So it's genuine leather, 2 stainless steel keepers, nice heavy gauge to the stainless steel, flawless mirror polishing to the top side, underside and flanks, and they're both stitched into position rather than sliding. So there is some adjustment on the first keeper. As you can see, it can slide up and down on the NATO style strap, but the first keeper is fixed into position so it doesn't slide. Good quality stitching around the rectangles, as you can see. Nice heavy gauge to the NATO buckle and tang, as you can see, and good attention to detail, because rather than being sterile as a production cross-cutting measure, they have engraved it with Bulova with high definition text. No sharp edges, no burrs. Top side, underside and flanks are mirror polished to the same standard as the buckle and tang, so excellent quality. On the underside, it's embossed with genuine leather, which confirms that this is genuine leather. And I really like how soft and supple it is. It's matte, black, grained finish. Feels like calf leather, and it's very soft and supple. So to put it into perspective how soft and supple it is, it feels like the very best of Hirsch calf leather straps, which are made in Austria, alternatively Halloween shell cordovan straps, which are tanned in Chicago respectively. It's got that nice top grain or calf leather feeling to it, very soft and supple. It's not going to require any breaking in. Lovely scent to it, and I like the tone of the black grained finish. Rather than being glossy finish, it's got a nice matte tone to it, and it's nice that they've included a strap which is made from genuine leather versus the default option, the less expensive option of a fabric nylon NATO strap. This is better quality, and again, excellent attention to detail, because even the keeper is signed with Bulova rather than being sterile, so this is a high quality genuine leather NATO strap. I'll show you the other end. Plenty of holes in it, so to clarify, this will fit from a 6-inch wrist size up to a maximum 7.5-inch wrist size. Plenty of length on it. Nice smooth grained finish to it, gorgeous scent to it, flawless stitching around the perimeter. Very soft and supple, as I've detailed. Very similar in terms of how supple it is to a Hirsch calf leather strap or a Halloween shell cordovan strap. And again, excellent attention to detail, because we have Bulova's logo embossed on the underside. And we've got the correct decision of using quick release stainless steel spring bars versus standard stainless steel spring bars. Therefore, that negates the need for a spring bar tool if you want to exchange the President style bracelet from the head of the piece for this NATO leather strap. Very smooth on the underside, so that enhances the comfort level and feel good factor. Soft and supple, not going to require any breaking in, but I am confident it's going to be robust and durable long term with daily wear and tear. It's clearly calf leather and very smooth, excellent quality calf leather. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 43.5mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 51mm, a thickness of 13.4mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The President style bracelet is straight and parallel, it does not taper, so therefore it is 20mm at the lugs and 20mm at the 2-button push butterfly clasp. The 2-button push butterfly clasp is signed with an engraved iconic Bulova tuning fork emblem, which is excellent, and the 2-button push triggers are brushed satin finish, no sharp edges, no burrs, and they are recessed partially beneath the left and the right hand flanks, correctly proportioned, heavily sprung loaded, and nice firm resistance to the spring loaded action. Flawless brushed satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks of the butterfly clasp, and I like that it has a half link on the 6 and also a half link on the 12 o'clock side. It's not handed, so it doesn't overlap. You can close the left or the right hand portion first, it doesn't matter, and I like that there is a half link either side. Often this is the problem with butterfly clasp, the lack of micro adjustment and the use of full links versus half links on the 6 and the 12 side, therefore it's difficult to get the correct fits, but Bulova have made the correct decision by using half links, so that's good. We have a flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the flat sapphire crystal. The handset is white, which contrasts very well with the matte dial and the matte black subdials, which have concentric circles. Tachymeter scale is clearly printed, high definition crisp printing to the Arabic numerals on the tachymeter, and also the subdials are printed with high definition white paint, minute 6 and second 6. Also like 262 kHz printed on the 6 o'clock subdial, and that refers to the 262 kHz or 262,000 Hz that the high precision quartz caliber runs at, and that's something I really like about this piece, which I'll detail. Layout of the subdials is correct, symmetry is good, it's very well balanced. Now, to clarify, some versions of the Lunar pilots do have a date complication, and the date complication is cited at 4 o'clock, as one would expect. This piece does have a date complication. The date wheel is still present beneath the dial, but they have deleted the date window on this version of the Lunar pilots, the reference 96K111. Subjectively, one could be critical of that, because one could say, well, this movement does have a date complication, so why not use it as per other Lunar pilot models? But however, some purist Bulova Lunar pilot collectors will appreciate the clarity, the symmetry of the dial. It's minimalist, and without it being an asymmetrical dial, having a date complication at 4. They prefer the balance and the clarity, the symmetry of a symmetrical dial with the 9, 6 and 3 subdials without a date complication at 4. It really comes down to subjectively your taste. Do you prefer date complication or do you prefer it to be absent? I like the clarity, I like the clean look of this dial with just the 3 subdials. I prefer this to the other Lunar Pilot models with the date window. Tachymeter is easy to read. I like the arrowhead tip to the chronograph hand, and we have 2 stainless steel pushers which are brushed satin finished on the top side and the underside, and then the edges are mirror polished. So let's test the chronograph complication. What I like about these 2 pushers is, rather than using round pushers, which are the industry standard and the default option for chronographs, this has rectangular pushers. And I like the flat profiles because they make a refreshing change, but they also feel good and look good. So pushing the top pusher activates the chronograph. And if you look at the 3 o'clock subdial, you can see that it measures the 1/20th of a second and it begins to run as the chronograph hand begins to tick around the dial and the tachymeter. So nice firm resistance to it. That's what I want you to be mindful of. You've got to give it a good hard push. It feels solid, it feels reliable and robust. So I'm absolutely confident with long-term daily wear and tear, this is going to be reliable and robust. You've got to give it a good push, but it's got a satisfying loud audible click and also a satisfying feeling to it. It feels heavily sprung loaded. So pushing it a second time stops the chronograph complication. Pushing the lower pusher resets it. And it's very satisfying to watch the chronograph hand reset bang on the 60, bang on the centre of the 12 o'clock index on the dial. So it resets bang on. Now I'm going to check it 3 out of 3 times at various positions, because when I'm testing a chronograph, I like to confirm that the alignment is correct of the chronograph hand resetting 3 out of 3 times to prove it beyond question. So I'll stop it again. Nice crisp action. It's really satisfying. It's something I really like about the Lunar Pilots, the firm resistance of the pushers. And it makes a refreshing change, because often round pushers have a light resistance. You push them in very lightly. But with these rectangles, you have to push them in hard, and they've got a really smooth, heavy clicking action. It's very satisfying. Pushing it again stops it and restarts it. So I'm going to reset it. And you can see it sweeps back round, very aesthetically pleasing to watch it reset. Bang on the 60, bang on the centre of the tachymeter scale, bang on the centre of the 12 o'clock index on the dial. I'll check it a third and final time. I'm going to allow it to move further round the tachymeter this time, because I like to check it in various positions to confirm the alignment is correct. This is what I like about Bulova pieces like this Lunar Pilot. The quality control level is very high, and therefore the alignment of the hand setting is precise. So I'm going to allow it to run round further. And I really like watching the 1/20th of a second subdial at 3 o'clock. It's very satisfying to see it running when the chronograph is running. It's just fantastic. So I'm just going to let the chronograph hand run round more on the tachymeter and then stop it and reset it. Nice crisp action. It's got a lovely loud audible click. Pressing the lower pusher also has a loud audible click. Lovely smooth sweep to it. Bang on 60 on the tachymeter, bang on the centre of the 12 o'clock index. 3 out of 3 times, perfect alignment. This is the quality control level I like about Bulova. It's refined. So, looks good and feels good. The 2 pushers are correctly proportioned. No sharp edges, no burrs to the edges of the rectangular pushers. And I like the contrast in finishing, because on the top edge and the low edge, they are brushed satin finished longitudinally, but on the side, they're mirror polished to match the mirror polishing to the flanks of the case. So the finishing is excellent. They look good. They don't project too far from the right hand flank, but I actually visually think they're very aesthetically pleasing. So, bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel. Nice large chamfer on the top edge, which deletes the sharp edge. And what I like about this bezel is, although it's high profile, it allows the flat sapphire crystal to project above it, and the edge of the flat sapphire crystal has a large bevel which catches the light, and you can actually see the sapphire crystal edge projecting above the bezel, and it's very aesthetically pleasing. It looks rather like a vintage top hat style crystal the way it projects above. It's high profile, and the flat sapphire crystal is the correct choice. For example, Bulova could have used a box top hat double dome sapphire crystal to give this piece of vintage aesthetic, and it would make it look like an acrylic, plexiglass or Hesalite domed crystal used in the 1960s and 1970s. Now bear in mind, the original Apollo 15 mission version, the prototype, was used in 1971. And of course that predated the use of sapphire crystal. Sapphire crystal is a notable modern day enhancement because of course sapphire crystal is harder and more scratch resistant than acrylic, plexiglass and Hesselites, which were used in the 1970s. I like the flat profile to it. Had they used a box top hat crystal or a double dome sapphire crystal, that would have added too much additional thickness. This piece would be 2mm thicker, and at 13.4 it's just marginally above the sweet spot of 13, so it's the correct choice. The bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel. The edge of it is concentric CNC lathe tool machined to a brushed satin finish. Absolutely gorgeous square profile to it rather than being a domed bezel, and I really like it. So I like the way the sapphire crystal projects above it. The case is solid 316L grade stainless steel, mirror polished on the top of the curved lugs and mirror polished on the flanks. Quality of the finishing to the case is fantastic. No flaws in the mirror polishing to the top of the case or the flanks or the underside whatsoever. This is stellar finishing. Nice large mirror polished undercut to the flanks, which deletes the sharp edge, and therefore that enhances the comfort level and the feel good factors. So both the left and the right hand flanks have a large mirror polished bevel, and that deletes that sharp edge on the undercuts of the case. Also the tips of the lugs have bevels, so they're deburred and chamfered. I really like the shape of the case. It's rather like a tonneau case because it's got a nice curved profile. And although it is a large diameter case at 43.5 and it is a long case at 51 lug to lug, it's a very nice case because we don't have thick slab sides, so it's deceptive. One would expect this to be a very thick piece because of its large dimensions, 43.5 by 51, but it is only 13.4. And the flanks are not slab-sided as a result. Visually they do look low profile enough, although it does have a deep bezel and a thick sapphire crystal, but it does give the aesthetic. It does give the look and the feeling of the original Bulova prototype chronograph from 1971 used on the Apollo 15 mission. So they've got it correct. It's got those original proportions. With regards to the bracelet, let's check it out in detail. So, President style bracelet versus a Jubilee style bracelet. Mirror polished centre links are polished to perfection. Outer links are brushed satin finish with a nice fine grained satin finish longitudinally, and that contrasts with the flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. Push pins are used versus screw pins. Now, subjectively one could be critical of this. I personally would prefer to see screw pins used at this price point, €699. However, this is subjective because I appreciate some collectors actually prefer the use of push pins because they make resizing the bracelet easy. Now, one has to appreciate the original Bulova pieces from the 1970s. They did use push pins in their bracelets versus screw pins, so therefore a purist Bulova collector could argue this is more true to the original. It's subjective. It comes down to whether you prefer push pins or screw pins. Let's check the articulation. Female Poutilene links articulate freely, don't feel stiff or kink, that's the benefit. And they don't have excess longitudinal, lateral, side or up and down play. Excellent. Bracelet articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, that's the benefit. It's not sloppy, doesn't have excess longitudinal, lateral, side or up and down play. No sharp edge to the top edge or the low edge of the flank, so it doesn't feel sharp, doesn't scratch the wrist, that's good. Doesn't pull arm hairs. Now, I think it would look better, more aesthetically pleasing if it had a taper 20-16, but however subjectively some collectors might argue this bracelet does need the additional meat of 20 straight, 20 at the lugs, 20 at the 2-button push butterfly clasp, because this is a large piece. It does wear with wrist presence, it does dominate the wrist. 43.5, needless to say, is large diameter by 51 lug to lug. There is a lot of heft to the head of the piece, and therefore it does need additional meat on the bracelet. One could argue a 20-16 would look better, but the bracelet therefore would not have enough heft on it with a butterfly clasp in order to balance the heft of the piece. As it stands, 20-20, the bracelet does feel heavy enough to balance the head of the piece. It doesn't feel top heavy. The bracelet and clasp balance the head of the piece. So it is a hefty piece. It's 181 grams with all the links, but nonetheless, it does feel balanced, which is good. So let's test the crown execution. Push-pull crown, coin edge finished. Nice large chamfer which deletes the tips of the coin edge teeth. Mirror polished domed cap to it, and it's signed with the iconic embossed Bulova tuning fork emblem to a good standard. Flawless mirror polishing to it, correctly proportioned. It doesn't project too far from the right hand flank. It is partially recessed into the right hand flank. So to clarify, when you flex the wrist, the crown doesn't dig into the back of the hand, although it is large enough to be grippy and tactile and needs to get good purchase on with your index finger and thumb. So push-pull crown, and therefore it provides 50 meters of hermetic seal, which is perfectly acceptable for a daily wear piece. Pulling it out to the first click position is actually the quick set date complication. Now, to clarify, as I've detailed, other Lunar Pilot models do have a date window at 4 o'clock. This one doesn't. However, the movement still does have a date wheel and date complication, and therefore when you're in the first click position, when you rotate the crown anti-clockwise, you can hear and feel the date complication, the date wheel clicking over to the next day of the month beneath the dial. It is still present, they haven't deleted it. That is the negative I want you to be mindful of. Subjectively, there is a phantom date setting position. There are 2 clicks on the crown. But however, as I've detailed, I prefer the clarity and the symmetry of the dial without the date window at 4. I like a symmetrical dial on the chronograph versus asymmetrical with the date window at 4. Putting this out to second click position hacks the movement, and we're now in the time setting position. So rotating the coin edge crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, it sets the time. Feels smooth when you cycle through the 12 hours, both clockwise and anti-clockwise. Doesn't feel stiff, doesn't feel rough or gritty. Very light resistance because the movement has 0 joules. And I really like the feeling of it. It feels very smooth, feels refined, and that's a characteristic of the NP20 high precision quartz chronograph used in this piece. The NP20 feels very smooth, feels very reliable, feels robust, but also feels refined because there isn't a lot of slack. The pencil minute hand, when you rotate the coin edge crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, you don't have to take up a lot of slack in it. So to put this into perspective, it has less slack than other mecha quartz movements such as the Seiko VK63 and VK64, which you may be familiar with. Minimal backplay. When you rotate the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there's an almost immediate response to the white pencil minute hand. And I really like that refinement, so you can feel the gearing feels well meshed. So pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. You can see the sub dial at 6 o'clock begins to tick around with the seconds once again, because the 60 minutes are registered on the 9 o'clock sub dial, and the small seconds are registered on the 6 o'clock sub dial respectively. So operating the crown feels good, and I think it's acceptable to use a push-pull crown on a chronograph. It doesn't need to be a screw-down crown with 100 metres. We're not looking at a dive piece, for example. 50 metres with a push-pull crown is perfectly sufficient for a chronograph piece. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now just bear with me, I'll remove my Concord 40 and then we'll do a wrist shot. Now I haven't sized the bracelet, and I'm pleased to report that it easily fits my large 8-inch wrist. This would actually fit up to a 9-inch wrist because you can see I can easily slide 2 fingers beneath the 2-button push butterfly clasp at all times. Therefore that indicates this would even fit up to a very large 9-inch wrist size. Plenty of links if you have a large wrist size of 8 inches plus. Now, to clarify, there are enough removable links on the 6 o'clock and the 12 o'clock side of the President style bracelet to size this down to a minimum 6-inch wrist size. So this will fit from a 6-inch minimum with all the links removed up to a maximum 9-inch wrist size, as you can see. As I've detailed, one thing I like about this bracelet and clasp, and I want to give due credit to Bulova here and remind you of it because they really do deserve special credit. Often the problem with 2-button push butterfly clasp is the lack of on-the-fly adjustment. For example, in warmer weather or when one is active and the wrist swells up, there is no on-the-fly adjustment as per ratcheting mechanism on a micro-adjustment clasp or a glide lock style clasp. That's the negative of butterfly clasp. But however, the other problem is often the bracelets only have full links on the 6 and the 12 o'clock side. Problem with that is adding or subtracting one full link from a President style bracelet like this doesn't give the desired fit. It either feels slightly too tight or slightly too loose. What one needs is half links. Now Bulova have made the correct decision because we have a half link on the 6 o'clock side and a half link on the 12 o'clock side. So for example, if you need to remove one full link to get the correct size, you can remove a half link from the 6 and a half link from the 12. The benefit of that is the 2-button push triggers on the butterfly clasp remain bang on the centre of the wrist rather than being offset to the 6 or offset to the 12 respectively. The other added benefit is, for example, if you need to remove 1.5 links versus 2, you can get the perfect fit, the half link fit. And I really like to see that, and they really deserve credit. A half link on the 6 and a half link on the 12. It's fundamental, it's simple, but so many mid-tier brands and mid-tier micro brands between 500 and 5,000 euro price point get it wrong. They only use full links. So they deserve credit. Now, as I've detailed, aesthetically, I think this would look better with its perfection personified 20-16 taper that's often referred to, because regardless of case size, I regard 20-16 as the perfect taper, regardless of whether it's a oyster style, jubilee style, beads of rice bracelet or a flat link bracelet respectively. This is a President style bracelet and it's 20-20. However, on this occasion, as I've detailed, I'm not going to be critical of it. So why am I not going to be critical? Well, this is a large piece. We're not looking at a 40 or a 41mm here. This is large, 43.5. Now, needless to say, it does have wrist presence, it does dominate the wrist. So straight away I'm going to say, if you have a smaller 6 to 7 inch wrist, you can rule this piece out, because clearly at 43.5 by 51, it's too large in diameter and also too long. The lug to lug is long at 51. It exceeds the sweet spot of 48 by 3mm, and even on my large 8-inch wrist, this really is at its upper limits. This is clearly best suited to collectors with a large 8-inch plus wrist size. So if you have an 8-inch plus wrist size, you will appreciate the diameter and also the lug to lug. This would be better for all wrist sizes, even 7 to 8-inch wrist sizes, if it had a slightly shorter lug to lug of 48. But however, I appreciate that this is a large diameter at 43.5, so Bulova have elected to use a longer lug to lug of 51 to balance it. 13.4 is good. Now you'll know from my previous reviews, 13mm is the sweet spot, because 13 and below easily slips underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So 13.4 is just marginally above the 13 sweet spot. It's only 0.4mm thicker. It is acceptable. It does have a nice flat case back and a flat sapphire crystal, as I've demonstrated. The benefit of that is, rather than using a box top hat crystal or a double dome sapphire crystal, which would add 2mm, this keeps it down to 13.4. So it will still easily slip underneath a shirt cuff. Although it's a large piece with a long lug to lug, it is relatively low profile. It does curve around the wrist very well, like a tonneau case. It doesn't sit on top of the wrist like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel, but it does have heft. Now, I say it does have heft, it is 181 grams, but of course one has to appreciate 181 grams with a very long bracelet, which will fit up to even a large 9-inch plus wrist size, as you can see. Even I would remove 6 links from this bracelet to size it down to my 8-inch wrist, and of course that would reduce it to circa 170 to 175 grams. If you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, you're going to be removing 8 to 10 links. If you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist, you're going to be removing, for example, 6 links from the bracelet, and therefore that will reduce it to circa 165 to 170 grams. It's still going to be well above the 150 gram sweet spot. That's something I want you to be mindful of, but one has to be magnanimous, one has to be realistic. This is not going to be anything like 150 grams with a 43.5 head of the piece. The head of the piece does add heft. It is a large piece, but that's just the way it is. One does have the alternative of wearing it on this leather NATO strap, and of course that will significantly reduce the heft down to circa 100 grams and make it more comfortable and improve the comfort level and feel good factors. So that's something to be aware of. You can remove the President style bracelet and wear the NATO strap as an alternative. I think it's a great looking piece. I do like the look of the President bracelet with the mirror polished centre links and the brushed satin finish outer links, and they make a refreshing change from using the default option of a Jubilee style bracelet or a beads of rice style bracelet or a flat link bracelet. I think the President style bracelet does look very good. Beautiful mirror polishing to it, beautiful lustre, and I like the way the flanks are mirror polished to match the flanks of the head of the piece. So heavy piece, but doesn't feel top heavy, feels surprisingly well balanced. Comfort level is good, feel good factor is good. What I like about it is the flat case back, because we don't have a large gap beneath the tips of the curved lugs, and the end link in the female putted end links, they articulate very well. So the President style bracelet, the end link pulls very close to the wrist, doesn't have a large gap, so it actually curves around the wrist very well, and it feels and looks surprisingly low profile for a large 43.5. Legibility is good. One can clearly read the white pencil handset as well as the arrowhead tip to the chronograph hand. Subdials are clearly legible. Symmetrical dial is very well laid out, and I like it's got a matte black dial and matte black tachymeter scale rather than using glossy enamel black or sunray black, so it's not as reflective and shiny, and when you look at the crystals straight on it looks invisible, so it's very good. I really like the clarity of it, the legibility of it. It's a good looking piece, and in terms of a purist Bulova collector's perspective, it does look close to the original prototype Bulova Chronograph from 1971 used on the Apollo 15 mission, so it does look true to the original, and I like the proportions of it, although clearly best suited to collectors with a larger wrist of 8 inches plus. So let's look at the case back in detail, but first I'm just going to put back on my Concord 40, just bear with me, and then I'll continue. So caseback is incredibly well detailed. We've got a forged caseback with an embossed iconic Bulova tuning fork emblem, which is mirror polished, matte bead blasted background to it, and then in laser etching in black we've got Apollo 15, and it details the missions. Now, as I've detailed, the original prototype Bulova Chronograph was used on the 2nd of August 1971, and that was used by the astronaut David Scott. but it also details the other missions that the watch was used on. And around the circumference, we've got the reference number, specification of the piece, and serial number, as well as it states high precision quartz, because this is powered by the NP20 high precision quartz. Caseback is very well finished, and I like the silver mirror polished circle around the centre. What I like about it is the milled slots are deburred and chamfered very well, no sharp edges. The comfort level and feel good factor of this caseback is fantastic, because this is the benefit of this being powered by an MP20 high precision quartz. It's a very thin calibre, it's low profile rather than a mechanical chronograph movement, and the benefit is this caseback isn't deep and bubble back profile. It's very thin and low profile, as you can see. So this means the head of the piece sits very close to the wrist. This enhances comfort level and feel good factor, and it's 50 metres, which is perfectly acceptable for a screw down caseback. 50 metres of hermetic seal is good enough for a chronograph. It doesn't need to be 100 metres. We're not looking to a dive piece, but because it's low profile, this piece is 13.4, which is good. The female pitted end links are a nice tight fit to the head of the piece, and we've got quick release stainless steel spring bars, which is good. It's the correct choice rather than standard stainless steel spring bars, therefore that negates the need for a spring bar tool to exchange the President style bracelets for the included leather NATO strap. So it's good one doesn't need a spring bar tool, because often with mirror polished undersides of cases like this, it can be difficult to remove the bracelet with a spring bar tool, and sometimes you can slip off the spring bar and scuff and scratch the mirror polishing to the tips of the lugs when changing the strap or bracelet. But this is good because you're not going to need a spring bar tool, and the quick release levers are correctly proportioned and well finished. The underside to the head of the piece is mirror polished to a flawless standard, and as I've detailed, nice large bevels on the flanks of the case on the undercuts that deletes the sharp edges, and the tips of the lugs have bevels, so there's no sharp corners. Comfort level and feel good factor is therefore enhanced. Very well finished case. So let's look at the 2-button push butterfly clasp in detail. Longitudinal brush satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks. Correctly proportioned triggers, heavily sprung loaded so they feel reliable and robust. Inner left hand portion has no sharp corners, deburred and chamfered well. Inner right hand portion has been deburred and chamfered, no sharp edges, so that's good. No sharp edges to the top edge or the low edge of the flanks, which is good on the internals. Let's check the hinge pins. Left hand hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, that's the benefit. Doesn't have excess longitudinal, lateral, side or up and down pay. Left hand inner hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, that's the benefit. Doesn't have excess play. Right hand inner hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Finally, right hand outer hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Excellent. So, credit where credit's due. Bulova have got it correct in terms of build quality, quality control, materials and finishing. What we have here are 4 hinge pins. Left hand outer, left hand inner, right hand outer. All 4 hinge pins have friction interference fits, and both the left and the right hand portions snap shut with a nice positive click. 2 button push triggers are heavily sprung loaded to feel reliable and robust, opens freely. This is an excellent quality 2 button push butterfly clasp. And I like that it's not handed, it doesn't overlap, therefore you can close the left or the right hand portion, and as I've detailed, it benefits from half links on the 6 and the 12 side. Excellent. Right, so let's do a Lume test, and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. So this is powered by BGW9 Super Lume Nova on the dial and also the hands. Right, so that's now fully charged. Now, you can see good colour tone match. In daylight, there's a good colour tone match between the BGW9 on the printed indices and the pencil handset, and also the arrowhead tip to the chronograph hand. In the dark, you can see we have the same blue tone. However, we're clearly looking at more layers of BGW9 on the pencil hands for the hour and minute hand, and also the chronograph arrowhead tip. If you look at the printed indices on the dial, you can see they're not glowing as bright. The potency of the exciter isn't as bright as on the hands. This indicates that there are more layers of BGW9 applied to the hands than on the printed indices on the dial. So I'm just going to charge this up once again because the camera is struggling to autofocus on it. So I think what we're looking at here, to clarify, is 5 to 6 layers on the handset, for example, and possibly 3 to 4 layers on the printed indices on the dial. So that's now fully charged again, and you can see initially the potency of the exciter looks the same in terms of brightness on the dial, on the printed indices, and also on the handsets. But then quickly on the dial, the potency is lacking of the exciter, because you can see it's fading quicker exponentially with time versus the pencil hands. The pencil hour hand and pencil minute hand On a positive note, you can easily differentiate between the shorter pencil hour hand and the longer pencil minute hand because the hour hand is shorter. Also, I like the Lume's arrowhead tip to the chronograph hand. That's clearly legible, so that's excellent. But you can now see the problem. The indices, which are printed versus being applied indices and infilled, you can see good symmetry. I like the symmetrical dial versus asymmetrical with the subdials at 9, 6 and 3 with the absence of a date complication at 4 as I've detailed, but they just need to apply an additional 1 to 2 layers on the dial to bring it up to the same potency of the exciter on the handset. Because you can see initially the potency looks the same. We have the same brightness, that's the point I'm making. But then the indices fade quicker than on the hand. So I think the hands are good enough at 5 to 6, but I think on the dial we're looking at 3 to 4 layers, and therefore they need to add an additional 1 to 2 layers to bring it up to 5 to 6 to match. So room for improvement on the dial, hands are good enough. Right, so let's discuss the movement use because it's my favourite aspect of this piece. So this is powered by the Bulova Calibre NP20 high precision quartz chronograph, which has 0 joules. It runs at 262 kilohertz, which is 262,000 hertz. Now, on the dial, if you look at the 6 o'clock subdial, you can see it says 262 kilohertz, which denotes this. So the subdial at 3 measures 1/20th of a second, and the small seconds at 6 is for the seconds, and then we've got the 60 minutes chronograph at 9. They're the 3 subdials. It does have a date complication, and as I've detailed, other models of the Lunar Pilot do have a date window at 4 o'clock, and they do have a date complication. This one still does have a dates wheel and date complication present within the NP20, but they haven't utilised it on this version of the Lunar Pilots, the reference 96K111. They've deleted the date window. I like that, but subjectively some collectors, some Bulova purists might argue this has a date complication. They should use it. It should have a date window at 4 as per other models. It comes down to whether you like a date window or not. 3-year battery life is good. Now, what is the benefit of 262 kilohertz or 262,000 hertz? Well, 262 kilohertz is 8 times higher than the frequency of standard quartz movements. The benefit of increasing the frequency to 8 times higher at 262 kilohertz is it increases the accuracy. The NP20 is an incredibly accurate movement. It's a high precision quartz chronograph. So the accuracy is 5 seconds per month deviation, which means 10 seconds per year accuracy. Just think about that for a moment. That's not 10 seconds per day or per week or per month. 10 seconds per year accuracy is incredibly accurate. 5 seconds per month deviation. Just think about that again for a moment. That's not 5 seconds per day, per week. That is 5 seconds per month deviation. 10 seconds per year accuracy. Stellar accuracy. That is the main benefit of the NP20 high precision quartz chronograph. It is incredibly accurate. So what I really like about it is, although it's got a high frequency and therefore high accuracy, it doesn't have a very short battery life, because often the problem with increasing the accuracy and the frequency of a high precision quartz chronograph is you deplete the battery life. They're power hungry, that's the point I'm making. So often you'll only have a 2-year battery life. This has a 3-year battery life despite running at a very high frequency of 262 kilohertz, which is 8 times higher than a standard quartz. So it's excellent. There are no negatives to it whatsoever. Hacking works well, setting the time works well, chronograph complication works well. I've proven it 3 out of 3 times. The chronograph hand resets bang on the 60 on the centre of the tachymeter scale, bang on the centre of the 12 o'clock index on the dial. Excellent. Accurate, reliable, robust. Also feels very good to operate, because when you press that top pusher with a nice heavy click, loud audible click, feels good, sounds good, and I like looking at the 1/20th of a second subdial at 3 o'clock. You can see it running, and the nice smooth sweep of the chronograph hand. Pushing it again, nice positive click, and the reset is nice and smooth. It's very aesthetically pleasing, as you can see. And it resets bang on every time the centre, so it's fantastic. No negatives whatsoever. The NP20 is a reliable, well-proven, Japanese-made high-precision quartz chronograph. Correct choice at this price point of €699. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet two criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So mid-tier piece, to remind you and clarify, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000 at €699. This is clearly mid-tier. I'm going to declare it's excellent quality, and I'm going to declare the value as good. There are no negatives whatsoever with regards to quality control, build quality, materials and finishing. Movement is stellar. 262 kilohertz. It's incredibly accurate and I really like it. 3-year battery life is good. There's only one room for improvement, and that is the BGW9 on the dial. On the indices, as I've detailed, I'd like to see 5 to 6 layers to match the potency of the exciter of the 5 to 6 layers on the pencil white hour and minute hand and chronograph arrowhead tip hand. So that's really the only negative, and therefore that downgrades it from excellent quality down to excellent value down to good value. But the quality overall is excellent, value overall is good. I think it's a very good watch at €699 and a credible alternative to the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch, which of course is much more expensive. One thing I like about it is the brand heritage. As I've detailed, this is an iconic piece, and the 2nd of August 1971 prototype used on the Apollo 15 mission by astronaut David Scott backs that up. It has that heritage from the original 1971 prototype Bulova chronograph. This is the modern version of it in 2025. The Lunar Pilot reference 96K111. It is an icon. So I like that aspect of it, the brand heritage and the interesting heritage behind the Lunar Pilot model. So I'm going to recommend it to you for consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Bulova Lunar Pilots, reference 96K111. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.